I have deep memories of having lived on a hill like this. I was a little kid, but the folks left that hill when I was just a little bitty guy. And now I'm trying to find that hill, trying to find family, my ancestors who live there. I don't know who they are. I'm going to look for them, and I'm going to find them. There we go. Well, welcome. Welcome to the family meeting. We call this the Ross family meeting. This started several months ago. Probably when my older brother passed away, I think we decided to start doing this.
Sorry.
And there were he has, were there 19 children? Some of whom I did not know. And so this is a way for us to get to know the entirety of the family. That's how we started. But questions arose that led to us branching out, and to get to chat with other members of the family and understand family history and that sort of thing. And so that's where we are now. It just gets wider and wider. It's just like our understanding of the universe, right? I mean, you used to think there were only a few planets and it was a small universe. Now it seems to be infinite or something. And that's the way this family thing is sometimes to me. I said, my goodness, where does it end? It's just, this is a very large family. So welcome again. And so I had a little screen here. I'm going to do a share with just an outline of today's meeting. Can you see that?
Yes.
So the focus today is on the Road to New Kent History of African Americans in New Kent County, which is a very pivotal historical location for our family. And our special guest, who's already here, is LaVonne Allen, who's a New Kent County historian. So we will begin with introductions of folks who are participating in this meeting. And then perhaps we'll talk about the New Kent connection of each of us. But if you like, you can share with the participants your connection to New Kent as you understand it. Then that will take care of part two. And then I will provide you with a bio sketch of our special presenter, LaVonne Allen, and then she will give her a remarkable presentation, I'm sure. And then that will be followed by Q&A. And then after the Q&A, we'll have concluding remarks and next steps. Does that sound like a plan? That's reasonable? Okay, yes. So let's start with introductions. Who wants to introduce themselves? and focused on that New Kent connection, because that's what we're going to focus on, And so that would be great if you know the New Kent connection. If you don't, and then someone else among us may know it. All right, there we are.
May I interject before you get started?
Sure.
Can everyone who's going to speak, can they speak a little louder? I have my sound all the way up, so I'm not hearing as much. I don't know if I'm the only one having that problem.
Okay, that's a good question. So who's having trouble hearing things right now? Anyone?
I'm having a little difficulty.
You're having a little difficulty as well?
Yes.
Is it me, or is it, let's see, maybe on my end at least, I can turn it
now
up.
you sound fine.
That's better.
Oh, okay, I can turn mine up. And certainly when we get to LaVonne, we'll make sure that that sound is at an adequate level as well, right? Because that's going to be the core of the presentation. So I can start. I'm Randy Ross, and I was born in Richmond, Virginia, but my folks lived in New Kent. So my folks are Meredith and Ross and Georgiana Bassett Ross. My mother was a Bassett, and her father was Ed Bassett, and Ed Bassett's mother was Emma Tyler. And so Ed was born in New Kent. I was pretty much born in New Kent. Folks left when I was young, like 1955, right? I came to Los Angeles from New Kent. And so that's my New Kent connection. And next, who's next? Anybody can jump right in.
Hi.
No, go ahead.
Okay, hi, I'm Zubaida Bassett Allen, and I have with me my two kids, which is Ava Allen
Hi.
and Preston. So these are two young family members here. And I think, Randy, I got in contact with you because my son at the time was doing like a family share at school where he had to kind of show his family history. And we thought it would be kind of cool to show, I guess, the Bassett / Tyler heritage. And so you gave me some really great information. And if I could do like a quick screen share, and I'll just show you kind of like the slide that we had come up with at the time that we kind of presented during his family share. Okay, it says that host disabled persist.
So I need to let's see, screen share that multiple participants can share simultaneously, maybe. How's that?
Yes. Oh, here we go. I can now do it. Can you all see this picture? Or
yeah, I can see it.
Okay, great. So this is kind of what we presented, and this is my son Preston. But this kind of shows our linkage, to the family. And you'll see me there. That's my father, Clarence Bassett, who's the son of Robert Bassett. And you can go back.
Right. So, and Robert Bassett is that's Robert and Goldie.
Yes.
They're brother and sister.
Brother and sister, right?
And these are my mother's siblings. A couple of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And my grandmother, Robert Bassett's wife, was also named Goldie.
Right.
So that's kind of our linkage, and this is kind of the product of what we had come up with.
I got it.
With you regarding the family history and what we presented for his class.
Oh, and great! This looks wonderful.
Of other slides here, but
and here is a photo of Ed Bassett. This is Ed Bassett, my grandfather, right? And this is your great grandfather, right?
Exactly, and it kind of it's all in reference to my son. So this would be, his grandfather was my, with my dad, my son and daughter. Sorry, she corrected me on that. But to them, and so Ed Bassett would have been my son's great grandpa.
Right, and here is Emma. Here's the photo of Emma. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, this is wonderful.
So that's kind of our linkage to the family.
And where you were born where, in Chesterfield County?
No, I was born in my mother is from Virginia. So I was born and grew up in Brunswick County.
Okay.
Southern part of the state.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds
and
good.
Moved here to LA probably about 2 years ago.
Wonderful.
All right. Thank you. I'll turn it over to the next person.
All right. So how do you undo the screen thing? I don't know what happened.
Here we go. I'll stop it.
Okay.
There we go.
Great.
I guess I can go next.
All right.
My name is Lee Madeline Dowles, formerly Lee Madeline Ross. So I'm the youngest daughter of Randy Ross. And so he has explained our connection to New Kent. So I won't bore you. Not again. I didn't say you didn't bore us. I won't bore you with.
I got it. All right.
Hello.
Hey.
I was born in Richmond, Virginia, in the Churchill area, and I was delivered at home by a Chinese person who spoke. It's a girl in Chinese, and I've been confused ever since.
So you're what is what's the New Kent connection?
My father, Norris Tazewell Tyler, was born in New Kent.
Right. Okay.
And we established that he was the son of Norwood Tyler.
Who's also born in New Kent, right?
Yes. So most of the people in my family were born near that area.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I like to ask someone named the Allen people. Did they know someone in that area named Goldie Allen? I went to
Goldie Allen.
Goldie Allen.
Huh.
I went to school with her. She was my roommate in college, and I just wondered if you knew of her.
No, I don't. Mm-mm.
Okay.
All right. Who's next?
I'm Daryl Cumber Dance. I was born in Charles City. My grandmother, Sarah Bassett Cumber, was born in New Kent, as were her parents and grandparents, specifically Emma and Sally. That's the line.
Right. Yeah. So we can have the other Daryl too, since she's, might as well couple you guys, right?
Yeah, I'm Daryl Lynn Gantz. I was born in Richmond, Virginia. I currently live in Newport News, Virginia. So.
Oh yeah. I think Uncle Boots working, and probably a lot of other folks worked in Newport News, right? In the old days, at the shipyard or something, they tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So who do we have next? We have a couple of the elders down below too, right? I see them lurking down. There's Norris. Can you hear me, Norris?
I hear you.
Huh?
Who are you talking? Which one?
Norris. He's talking.
Talking to Norris?
Oh yeah. Huh? I was trying to get Norris, but I don't hear anything. He's trying to say something, but I can't hear. We don't have any. Oh, he's muted, I think, right? Norris, you're muted. You need to unmute your sound. Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, great. How are you?
Okay, well, good to see all of you.
Thank you.
And my sister Dama has already given you the history where I was born in Richmond, Virginia. And I've contacted two of my cousins, the Thorntons, and I'm happy to see that they have joined this afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
Johnny Thornton and Donna, his daughter. And I haven't seen Lenny yet, but I would love for you to talk to them. Johnny was a professional drummer, like I told you.
Oh, yeah, we talked. I gave him a call. Yeah, we had a nice talk. Yeah, we had a nice chat.
Yeah, but he's much older than I am, but he's here. He's my first cousin.
All right.
Good to see y'all.
Good seeing you.
We're having problems trying to get it on the big screen, so bear with us. We didn't see a link.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, the link was there. So we can see you, though. Real good. So let's go over to Johnny then. Just so your older cousin.
That's okay, brother. I'm going to get you, fella. Johnny, I'm going to get you. Okay, I'm Johnny Thornton. My mother was Inez Tyler, born in New Kent. And what can I say? I have I have 3 kids. They're not kids anymore, though. They're adults. I have 3 adult children, and Norris is my first cousin, of course, and he has already said as much as he can about me. I do play music, and I play drums, and I don't understand that Ross, you play drums too?
No, I play saxophone.
Oh man, okay, we got a band already.
Yeah, so when I come to Richmond, I plan to come to Virginia next spring, I think.
Oh yeah.
So I'll bring my sax, and then we'll go out and find some place to jam at some jazz club or something.
Oh, okay, great. And this is Grandpa here. Can you see him?
Oh yeah. That's a very popular photo. Or I don't know if that's a photo or a sketch. It's a painting or something. Huh?
I don't know. I guess it is.
It's a photo.
Yeah.
Is a photo?
Yes.
But that's a very popular one, right? Because I guess many of you have that photo. I've seen it many times. Yeah. So that's that's a great one. Just like we have in the Bassett's, we have those two photos with Emma and Alan Bassett. That's anywhere you go almost. You know, I went to visit a relative in the Bronx, New York, and I knocked on the door. She wondered who in the heck I was, you know, and then I had some stuff with me, and I showed her this photo. And she said, "Oh, come on in." And then right on her wall, right by the stairwell there, she had the same photo, you know, the double image, Alan and Emma. So we connected immediately, right, because of the photo.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
So I just want to say I'm Donna Jones, which is Johnny Thornton's daughter, and his wife is Lenny Thornton behind me. And I believe my brother is on, Norwood Thornton. He lives in Florida, so he's online as well.
Yeah, and another Thornton just popped in, I think.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Who was that?
Let's see who that is.
Yeah, and Norwood was in his car, I think. I mean, you know, so he was driving, so you know he's focusing on the road. So,
yeah,
but he's in on it.
Oh, there he is.
There he is. There he is now.
Oh, okay.
And so Norwood is named after my great grandfather?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's after Norwood.
Yeah.
It's Norwood Tazewell Tyler, huh?
Yeah, right. That's right.
So who do we have left here? We got well, let's go over to the Norwood.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Hey.
My name is Norwood, but it's not Tazewell. my first name is actually Stefan. My middle name is Norwood. Last name Thornton. The guy down there, well, he's down there on my screen. That's my father, my sister, and my mother, and we have another brother. Don and I have another brother, and he's down in Dallas, Texas. I'm right now in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And hello, family.
Hey.
Hello.
Now, are you the magician?
That's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you do a quick magic trick for us?
I'm not prepared at this point in time. But
I heard about you. I said that.
I'm more than happy.
Yeah, that was fascinating. I said, a magician? I said, that's fascinating. You know, so yeah, one of these good days you can, you know, pull off a few things out, pull a rabbit out of a hat for us.
Turn it on. All right. Sounds like
All right. So now we've got. So I'm not sure who's older than whom, but you know. So let's go with Wendy and then Narda and then Francis. Then I think we'll have everybody, right? How's that order, right? So Wendy.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. Honor. I am so honored and grateful that you're including me in this. I'm one of these white people who doesn't or didn't really get the full story and believe the story that was told. So seeing all of your faces on this screen is like, oh my gosh, it's so exciting. And I just really appreciate that you let me sit in on it. And I'm
great.
a granddaughter of Tyler through Robert.
Right. And so Robert, just for the participants, you know, Robert Tyler is the brother of Tazewell Tyler.
Correct.
Both the sons of President John Tyler with his first wife, Letitia Christian.
Correct.
And so that's the New Kent connection, because Letitia Christian was born at Cedar Grove in New Kent. Mm-hmm. All right, and her father was Robert Christian, so he bought that plantation, I guess. So that's a huge New Kent connection. I think there are lots of other Christians too, both in New Kent and Charles City. And so I don't know how it all comes together, but it's big family, the Christians. Now I just read a book written by Spencer Christian, Edward Spencer Christian.
Yes.
Who's a famous newscaster. So he's connected to the family, I guess, by way of the Christians and probably the Browns, because he shows up in Daryl's book as well.
Yes, he is Brown.
Yeah.
Well, he's not Brown himself, but his family comes from the Abraham Brown line.
Right. Okay, so then we have Narda.
Good afternoon. My father was Norwood Tyler Jr. My grandfather, Norwood Tyler. But Daddy didn't get the middle name, Tazwell. They left that out. For what reason, I don't know, but Daddy was born in New Kent County. He married Frances Drew Tyler. We have which had 4 daughters, Wanda, myself, and the twins. Our family was known as, when you hear of us, you heard to just say the twins. Everybody knew who the twins were. And, but my daddy's deceased, my mother deceased, and my oldest sister is deceased. So it's now just 3 girls in the family. 2 of us are married and still, and grandkids. I have 3 grandkids, just received a little boy about 1 month old in our family now, in my little family. So I'm blessed to be a grandmother, but I am happy to see a lot of my cousins I haven't seen. Norwood, Donna,
Nada, I did not know that was you. I was like, I haven't seen her in years. Oh my God.
Oh my, this is so beautiful. and we talk, and I mean, gee, we went out for a vacation in California, had no idea we had relatives in California. And my oldest granddaughter said, Grandma, don't you know anybody out here? And I said, no. And then when I had to go back, oh, we got some cousins. So Grandma, we going back to California?
Lots of cousins in California.
Yes, so I am so pleased to be here this afternoon. And Delma, I see you too.
I see you too.
And brother, and Janice, yes. So this is beautiful.
All right.
You've been missing? See what you've been missing? Now you see some of the talent.
But I've never had the pleasure to go to New Kent County, but Daddy always talked about it. So we will have to take a vacation and just drive through New Kent County, because it's something to be seen and to know about. So that's why I'm very blessed to hear and to see what you have on your agenda.
Thank you. Glad to meet you. And now we have our youngest cousin on today's video. It turns out that you're the youngest. Can I ask you how old you are, Francis?
I'm 23. Maybe
it's 23. Huh?
Zubeda's children.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. 23. So yeah, Francis, the remarkable Francis. So she's one of our cousins, and she's connected with the Sherwood Forest Plantation, and we're related like third cousins. We, on Ancestry.com, third cousins, one removed. So she's actually a third cousin of my mother. It's a fascinating story about the sort of the marriage thing, the second marriages, and the age differences between the second wives and the Tyler husbands. And so she's the third cousin of my mother, and then her father, who currently lives at Sherwood Forest Plantation, he is the second cousin of my grandfather, Ed Bassett, and then
Wow.
her grandfather, who's still living, I think, right? He's still living, yeah. So he's the first cousin of Emma, Emma Tyler Bassett. That's almost impossible. You think about it numerically, but it's because of the interesting thing about the second marriages, and then the second marriages in each case, I think the wives were like 30 years younger, right? Starting with John Tyler, President John Tyler himself, right? Yeah. So Francis, you can just say hello to folks and.
That's it. Yeah, I'm in Charles City right now, but I'm from Richmond, so I think we've just overlapped, and like Wendy, I'm excited to be here.
All right, so I think that's it. So we're going to.
I want to say something.
Sure.
I was waiting until Francis got on, and I want to tell you, I was down there to see her Thursday. So we met.
Oh, wonderful! And I think that Daryl said she was had signed up
for Tuesday.
Oh, you were on for Tuesday.
You were on Tuesday? Oh, if I had known that.
And then some of the Rosses were there on last week or a couple of weeks ago or something. Yeah. So that's going to be the next meeting. Will focus on that. Yeah, their visit to Virginia and including Sherwood Forest Plantation. So the last person that we yet to introduce, I think, is LaVonne, right? Or did we say?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was saving her for last because she's our keynote presenter today. But LaVonne is our cousin too. I know she's she's on ancestry.com. I'm not quite sure how we're connected, but we're connected. So maybe at some point during the Q&A we can explore that. But right now, let me just I want to provide you with an intro. We're glad to have you, LaVonne. And I'm going to do. Let's see. So you've all had this, but I'm going to read it for the purpose of this recording. LaVonne Patterson Allen. LaVonne Patterson Allen is the historian for the New Kent Historical Society of New Kent County, Virginia, and the African American Heritage Society of New Kent County, Virginia. LaVonne holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in art education from Norfolk State College, now Norfolk State University. She has 40 years of family research experience and has taught New Kent County history classes at the New Kent County campus of the how do you pronounce that? Rappahannock Community College. Mm-hmm. She is a member of several historical societies and a member of the Association of Professional Genealogists. She received the 2018 Volunteer of the Year Award from the Virginia Genealogical Society for her dedication and support in helping others with their family history research and for her dedication to the preservation of the history of New Kent County. LaVonne lives in New Kent County and is the co-author of several books on the history of New Kent County, Virginia, including The Heritage of African Americans, New Kent County, Virginia, Volume 1, Early Education, Colored Schools, United States Colored Troops Born in New Kent County, Virginia, New Kent County, Virginia Confederate Soldiers and Widows' Pensions Records, including the records to African Americans who served in the Confederacy as bodyguards. Her next book, James Lafayette, America's Hero, will soon be available. LaVonne is the owner of Fingerprints of the Past, a company offering professional genealogical research services. Welcome, LaVonne.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I am, as you said, the historian for both the New Kent Historical Society, and I have been the historian for about 14 years now. The New Kent Historical Society was formed in 1988. The African American Heritage Society was just formed in 2017. So I'm also the historian for that society. I live in New Kent County. I was not born here. I was actually born in the Hampton area, Newport News area, and I went to Newport News schools. My mother and father and both sets of grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, great-great-great-grandparents were all born in New Kent County. New Kent, as someone was saying, New Kent is boring. New Kent, I wouldn't call it boring, but it is very quiet. It is has always been an agricultural county. We, of course, are growing, but you still have the rural part of New Kent County that still exists now. As a matter of fact, New Kent County at this time is the second fastest growing county in the state of Virginia. We now have about almost 25,000 people. So for us, that is a large number. We are growing. We now have a Bojangles and a Wendy's. At one time, we only had a McDonald's. So we are growing because the people are actually working in other places for years. Once they retire, they are moving to New Kent County. So most of our population will be retirees. And as the children graduate from school, most of them do not stay here because we have very few employment opportunities. So they do move elsewhere. And before I say anything else, my connection is not good today, so you may see me fade out, but I will come right back on. The history of New Kent County is fascinating. It's an old history and a rich history. Unfortunately, New Kent County has been very slow in the research and education of the Black history and of the slave history. They are really behind on that. And this is one of the reasons that the African American Heritage Society was formed. Our purpose is to research all history of New Kent County, but in particular, the enslaved, the free Blacks, and also the Native American Indians who are from New Kent County. I have a small PowerPoint presentation. I hope Randy will be able to have that running for us. It's going to give you an idea of some of the background of New Kent and some of the famous names that are associated with New Kent, and in particular, those who were enslaved and the free Blacks. It's not a whole presentation of the history because it's so much that can be included. I couldn't do all that. So I hope you will learn something from this presentation. Then afterwards, any questions that you may have, I will be happy to answer them for you.
The history of New Kent County, Virginia.
New Kent County was formed in 1654. By an act of the House of Burgesses, New Kent became the 12th county in colonial Virginia. On November the 20th, 1654, New Kent County was formed from York County, Virginia. The deep roots of New Kent County are rich in history. Included in this rich history is the story of the enslaved, free Blacks, and the Native American Indians. The historic deep roots of New Kent County's rich history were entwined in the institution of slavery for over 200 years. Homes, plantations, farms, businesses, and the residents of New Kent County, Virginia prospered and thrived on those who were enslaved. 3 Indian tribes are associated with New Kent County: the Chickahominy Indians, Pamunkey Indians, and the Mattaponi Indians. The Powhatan Confederacy was composed of about 30 tribes, over which Chief Powhatan had absolute control. His daughter Pocahontas married John Rolfe of England. Their treaty of peace with the English was in 1613. The Chickahominy Indians are divided into 2 sections, the Eastern and Western Divisions. The Eastern Division is located near Windsor Shades in New Kent County. The Western section is located in neighboring Charles City County. The Pamunkey Indian tribe was the largest of the 30 or more tribes under the control of Chief Powhatan. Their treaty of peace with the English was in 1642. The Mattaponi Indian tribe, residing on the banks of the Mattaponi River, are believed to be part of the Pamunkey Indian tribe. The land between the 2 tribes having gradually passed into the hands of the white man, thus separating the 2 groups. The Mattaponi Indian tribe is the last to sign the Treaty of Peace with the English. The Mattaponi Reservation was confirmed in 1658. John Punch, an African indentured servant, In 1640, before the formation of New Kent County, John Punch, an African indentured servant, attempted to flee his indentured service along with 2 white indentured servants. This attempt failed. The 2 white indentured servants were sentenced to an additional year of service. John Punch was sentenced to slavery. John Punch had 3 sons with an unknown white woman. One son was named John, and later the surname became Bunch. John Bunch and his brothers were born free because their mother was a free white woman. John Bunch and his brothers had a much better life than most blacks at that time. In 1662, John Bunch received a patent for 450 acres of land in New Kent County. John Punch and his sons are direct ancestors of President Barack Obama. James Pawpaw. In 1729, James Pawpaw was enslaved by Francis Littlepage at the Cumberland Plantation. James had a natural skill of mixing plants, herbs, and roots to make a mixture for curing several diseases. The governor of Virginia, William Gooch, ordered the testing of these concoctions by the government. The testing proved James Pawpaw's concoctions did cure several diseases. Governor William Gooch paid Francis Littlepage 50 pounds. It is assumed the 50 pounds was for James. James Pawpaw received 20 pounds annually and his freedom for his skills in mixing plants, herbs, and roots for the cure of diseases. James Lafayette. James was born into slavery on December 10, 1740 in New Kent County, Virginia. James was enslaved by the Armstead family, and because of this, James is known as James Armstead or James Armstead Lafayette. His enslaver, William Armstead, signed up for service in the American Revolutionary War. James asked for permission to go with him, and permission was given. James did not serve as a soldier in the American Revolutionary War. However, when he found out that the American forces led by General Lafayette and George Washington needed a spy, James volunteered his services. James also became a spy for the British forces led by General Cornwallis and Benedict Arnold. James then became a double spy. James's skill as a double spy helped America to win the American Revolutionary War. Because James was not a soldier in the war, he returned to New Kent County as an enslaved man. He did not receive his freedom until 6 years later. When he received his freedom, James chose the surname of Lafayette. James Lafayette, America's hero. New Kent County was the birthplace of 2 first ladies. New Kent County is the only county in the United States that is the home of 2 first ladies. Martha Washington was born in New Kent County on June 2, 1731. She was the wife of George Washington, the first president of the United States. She married George Washington in New Kent County on January 6, 1759. Letitia Christian Tyler was born in New Kent County on November 12, 1790. She was the wife of John Tyler, the 10th president of the United States. Letitia Christian married John Tyler in New Kent County on March 29, 1830, and she is buried in the family cemetery in New Kent County. Martha Washington's father, John Dandridge, fathered a daughter with an unknown slave of African and Native American Indian blood. Martha's half-sister was Anne Dandridge. Anne Dandridge moved to Mount Vernon with George and Martha Washington. She lived her life as an enslaved woman. Eventually, she married an enslaved man by the name of Costin. Letitia Christian Tyler's father, Robert Christian, fathered a son by an unknown slave. Letitia's half-brother was James Hamilton Christian. James Hamilton Christian escaped slavery through the Underground Railroad. never returning to Virginia or New Kent County. He made his home in Canada. Cumberland Plantation. Cumberland Plantation, New Kent County, Virginia, was built about 1690. The first owners of Cumberland were the Little Pages. During the Civil War, Cumberland was owned by Henry and Susan Toller. The Tollers were known to be cruel to their slaves. In 1862, a large number of Union soldiers, under the leadership of General McClellan, used Cumberland as a location for their campsites. Cumberland had the largest gathering of soldiers that ever occurred during the Civil War. Over 130,000 Union troops camped out at Cumberland. Any slaves at Cumberland were immediately under the protection of the Union Army, and they were labeled as contrabands. The following photo shows a group of slaves at Cumberland who are now contrabands. Contraband slaves, Cumberland Plantation, New Kent County, Virginia. New Kent County Early Education. New Kent County had 15 early schools for the education of the black students. The terminology for these schools at that time was colored schools. Out of these 15 schools, 5 were Rosenwald schools. Only one of the Rosenwald schools is still in existence in New Kent County. This school is the Quinton School. There is also one Freedmen's Bureau School still in existence in New Kent County. This is the Tunstall School. One of the older schools in New Kent County for black students only was the Second Liberty School, built in 1893. The Second Liberty School served the Quinton and Taylorsville community from 1893 until 1939, when the New Kent Training School opened. To the left, you will see a term report for the Second Liberty School for the year of 1926 to 1927. Outlined in red are 4 members of the Tyler family who were students at the Second Liberty School for the school year of 1926 to 27. Reverend William Harvey Patterson. Reverend William Harvey Patterson was born free in New Kent County on February 3, 1810. He was born into a family that had been free for generations. He helped to establish the Second Liberty Baptist Church right after the end of the Civil War. He was a minister, teacher, and community leader. He served in the House of Delegates from 1871 to 1873. Calvin Coolidge Green was tired of waiting for the promise offered in the landmark Brown versus Board of Education, Topeka, Kansas decision by the United States Supreme Court. He could see that schools across Virginia were all but ignoring the ruling that declared segregated schools unconstitutional. Green versus New Kent County challenged a school choice system that left the county's 2 schools virtually segregated. And in 1968, the court ruled unanimously in Mr. Green's favor. Green versus County School Board of New Kent County, Virginia. The Charles C. Green et al. Versus County School Board of New Kent County, Virginia was the second largest case on integration to go before the United States Supreme Court. This case forever changed education in the United States. It involved the only 2 schools in New Kent County, one being black, the George W. Watkins School, and the other being an all-white school, the New Kent School. Both schools are now on the National Historic Register, and both schools has a National Historic Landmark marker in front of each building. This is just a small portion of the rich history of New Kent County, Virginia. The African American Heritage Society of New Kent County, Virginia will continue its research on the rich history of New Kent County and will continue to tell the story of the enslaved, the free blacks, and the Native American Indians of New Kent County, Virginia.
Thank you very much, LaVonne. That was excellent. Boy, I had a lot of questions. I guess a lot of folks. Yeah, can you hear it? You're there, right?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes.
Did you want to add anything to the presentation you just gave on the PowerPoint presentation before we go to Q&A?
Okay, got lost for a minute. I'm back.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah. Just asking if you wanted to add any additional commentary before we go to the Q&A.
The only thing I was going to add to it is that I think I was telling Frances this when I talked to her the last time. New Kent County has not, as I said before, done a lot of research on the history of the enslaved, the slaves, or the blacks. There's very little publication out there. This is the reason we started to do some books on this. We want this type of history to be known. We wanted it documented and verified. And we are in the process of doing this, and we're just at the beginning stages. So hopefully within the next year or two, there will be several more publications out, and we will keep you updated on that.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. All right, with that, let's open it up for questions and discussion, possible answers, or at least agenda setting. We can do some agenda setting, right? Because I know we have our interests, and that may be helpful to LaVonne and her efforts, as well as Frances, and to us as we continue to pursue discovery.
And
Question?
if anybody else has any of the history you would like to be included in what we're doing, please share your history with me.
You know, on that, the school, I guess it was a school roster, the list of students. Who were those Tylers on that list?
It was Norris Tyler, and I don't have the paperwork in front of me now. I'll get that and check it for, but I know Norris Tyler was one of those.
Was a Norwood Tyler, something start with an A?
Yeah, it's Alicia, Alcia.
Something, yes, something like that. And then I couldn't remember the first one, something like Garland, or it looked like a G.
Yes, it is a G.
Gardner.
Garland too.
What year? So this is 19.
Gardner. Okay.
Yeah, 19. This is the school year 1926-27. There's a Gardner Tyler. There's a Norwood Tyler.
Norwood Gardner.
Is that an artist or what was that?
Artist.
Artist.
Maybe that's what it is. Artist.
Artist Tyler. And then there's a is that Marilyn Morgan? Morgan Tyler.
Morgan Tyler.
That's it. They're the four. Yeah, that's it.
Oh.
I know Norwood, Artist, and Morgan, they're brothers.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure about Garland. That's where I'm lost.
That's a Gardner Tyler, it says, right?
Right. I'm not sure about that one.
I think he may be the son of John Thomas Tyler.
Okay.
I think, and that's Melvin's father's name was Gardner, John Gardner Tyler, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, Melvin Tyler. I don't recognize anyone else here. Is that the extent of the list? They had
on that one. I haven't gone through all of them. Actually, I was very lucky just before COVID hit. The school board called me one day and said they were cleaning out their offices and they had a box of papers. If I wanted to come over there and look at it, I could. If not, they were going to throw it in the trash can. So naturally I said, yes, I'll be right over. And these were all school records from
27. Huh?
1916 to 1938.
Okay. Right.
For both the white and the black schools at that time.
Oh.
There have to be women at the schools too.
There are some limits. I do see some limits. Yes.
Women. Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting
question is with James Paul, he had a cure for several diseases. Do we have a list of what kind of disease?
Some of them were distemper, illnesses of the stomach, and venereal diseases. They were the 3 ones that they listed that he was known for curing.
Thank you.
I'm working with a retired biology professor from Johns Hopkins University.
Yes.
He's been to New Kent County several times. He is tracing the route or where James Pawpaw would have gone to collect these plants and herbs and roots, so he can recreate the same path he took and try to see what these actually were used for outside of the 3 diseases that they named. So he's working on that. And we're also working on getting him a historical marker, and that should be coming pretty soon.
You've done a beautiful job. I really like to say thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think I asked you this before, that you, and you said you were going to try to look into it. There was a Stanley Tyler.
Yes, I had called several people, and finally one of them called me back last week. I finally got a number from him. I just got it a few days ago, so I haven't had the chance to call him yet.
Okay.
I do have his number.
Yeah, I talked with him. I talked with him a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, you did?
Okay.
And then there was another person, but I only know her by what she posted on Ancestor.com and 23andMe. And Motini Tyler, Moni Tyler.
Yeah, I looked for it, but I couldn't find what you were.
Ask Stanley, because they were supposed to have, when I was on Ancestor.com, she related to me that she was kin to me by my grandmother, the Jefferson side.
Okay.
Okay, and they had gone down to find the grave sites of the buried family, the Browns and the Towlers, down somewhere in there. So I was interested in finding that. Another thing is, where, if there were slaves on the Towler plantation, where were they quartered? Where did they live?
Sounds like a Francis question, huh?
I was going to say Francis could probably answer that question.
I tried to ask Francis, but that's one question I forgot to ask her.
There were a couple different Tyler plantations as well. So at Sherwood Forest, we think that the enslaved quarters were in an area that's now wooded. It's forest now. And then at Greenway Plantation, which is where John Tyler's father lived and enslaved over 40 people, I think those quarters were also further from the house. But yeah, they were usually separate from the house, all enslaved quarters.
I found that out, and this is what I said. If you get in touch with Stanley Tyler, they know where it is.
Okay. I will make sure I ask him about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Great.
Questions?
I have a question.
All right.
I had mentioned to you, Randy, about James Tyler, who passed about, I guess, a little over a year ago, 88 years old. He was buried in New Kent, Charles City, Virginia. And I didn't know who he was, but he passed about, I guess, about a year ago, 88 years old. Can somebody identify him? James
And he
Tyler.
died in New Kent County?
He died in Richmond.
He died in New Kent County?
He died in Richmond, Virginia, but he was he was buried in Charles City, Virginia.
Charles City. Oh, okay.
And he looked a lot like Norris.
Yep.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Norris shared a photo with me. He looks,
I don't know.
James Tyler.
So LaVonne is stuck, I think. So she'll come back in as soon as she can. You back? LaVonne, you back?
I'm not sure, but I will check on it for you and find out who James Tyler is.
It was a funeral home in Charles City. I can't think of the name of the funeral home, but that's where his service was held.
Was it Charity Funeral Home?
No, it wasn't Charity.
Okay.
That was the only one. That's the only one that was in Charles City, isn't it? I believe.
I sent Randy. You don't have that picture, do you?
Well, I have it somewhere, and that's I was just asking myself, where did I put that?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. I'll look. Yeah, keep talking. I'll see if I can find it. If I find it, I'll
read it. Yeah, thank you.
Did it list who his parents were?
Yes, I think so. I can't remember. I'm 83 years old, so my mind goes back and forth. Okay.
Yeah,
okay, I'm going in and out.
Yeah.
And who was his parents? Do you remember?
No, I'm not that good.
Okay. Okay. I'll check into it and see what I can find out for you.
But Brandon said he's gonna try to find the notice, and then he could read it.
Well, yeah, I can't. Yeah, I couldn't find it right off, but I'll look for it, and then I will share it with you, LaVonne.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
There were some Pattersons in our family, and but they were all, from what I remembered, they were all redheaded. You know any redheaded? Redheaded, bright red hair. And the my father had a Patterson mustache. His mustache was red when he wore a mustache. But
okay.
But, brother, do you remember the Pattersons?
Yeah, but they came from Norfolk.
Oh, from Norfolk.
So how were they? I thought they were kin to the Tyler family also.
They distant relatives, but all of them were in Norfolk, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Pat Patterson and was one of them.
Pat Patterson from Newport News?
No, Norfolk.
The electric?
No. Yeah,
Norfolk.
electrician.
Oh,
yeah, electrician.
Oh,
right.
The electrician. Yeah,
right.
He and my dad were second cousins.
So
yeah,
he was redheaded, right?
Well, light colored hair. Yeah, it wasn't quite red, but he was light colored hair. Yeah, now he and my father are second cousins.
And then he had a brother who taught at Virginia State University. I can't think of his name.
Willard Patterson?
Willard, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Willard Patterson, right. Yeah, they're all they're cousins.
They're cousin of my dad's, distant cousin.
Okay, they're cousins. Yeah, my father's grandfather and their grandfather were brothers.
Well,
that's how they're related.
Yeah, Pat had a big business.
Yes, he did.
Big company.
Very big. Yeah, big company for years. He did.
And I like to ask Daryl. When I got my report back from Ancestry.com, they said that my grandmother on the Brown side and my grandfather were both related to the Tyler. But when I talked to Frances, she doesn't remember anything about the Browns.
Well, in Daryl's book, in Dr. Dance's book, she mentions the oral traditions of the Brown family, which I have sort of bulleted and shared with Randy. Delma, I can share that with you too, or Dr. Dance. I'm sure you can provide a book.
You mute. Mom, you're mute.
I can't hear you, Francis.
Oh, I was just suggesting the stories in your the lineage of Abraham, which describe the Brown oral traditions of Tyler ancestry, like Sylvanus Tyler Brown. That's the one that I know best.
Oh,
yes. Yeah. Well, my grandmother, Ethel Marie Tyler, was when I went on Ancestry.com, they told me because of the Browns and the Tylers that they were connected to John Tyler.
Yes, on both sides of my family, there are those connections.
Okay.
You know, let me poke in for a little bit. You know, one of the big questions I have. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the big questions I have is about the Sarah Jefferson. I'm looking for Sarah or Sally. They call her, you know, Sally Jefferson, the one who had the 3 kids that we all talk about: Thomas, Emma, and John. And I know this, you know, Sarah had her mother's name was Aggie. She seems to have been in New Kent County, born in New Kent County possibly. Hard to tell because I can't find her in the 1860 census, right? Because that's still during slavery. And so if you know, she was not free, I guess. I couldn't, at least not in New County, so I couldn't find anything there. It's possible that she was probably a slave and somebody's slave. She and her mother and her son Thomas, right? And a lot of you are related to Thomas. Thomas was born in 1857. So he was born during slavery and before the Civil War. So I couldn't find them until 1870. And so 1870, they show up in New Kent County, right? They're living together. And then in 1880, there's an interesting thing I saw. So they're living together, but right next door to this white family whose name is Apperson. And then right after them, on the other side of the Appersons were some Allens. And in Emma's diary or her records, she makes reference to these Allens, the same Allens. So she knew the Allen family very well. And I'm not sure if they're related or not. But her records, you know, she talks about when, you know, Emmeline, there's Emmeline Allen and all those, when they were born, when they died. And so they know each other. And then the Appersons are sandwiched in between. They're a white family in 1880. The lady, she's Susan, I think, you know. So she's about 65 years old at the time. And I think she has 2 or 3 sons living with her. And they're, you know, she's into farming. So, but then when you look at the Appersons in 1860, they're really big time slaveholders.
Yes.
In New Kent County.
Yeah.
Right. But then after
Yes.
after the war, you don't have slavery, but you still have relationships. And so it looks like in fact, there was another Norwood, somebody else named Norwood, right? If you look at in that 1880 census.
Yes.
There are 2 Norwoods, you know, one was the Appersons.
Mm-hmm.
So I started, because I was first thinking that maybe Sarah, you know, Sarah Jefferson, Sally Jefferson, was a slave of Tazewell, because Tazewell had about 11 or 12 slaves back in 1860, you know, because of his relationship, you know. But then now I'm kind of wondering, is there any kind of connection to the Appersons? You know, who were the Apperson slaves? Because there were a bunch of them and they had many Appersons. But the one that Susan comes from, the one in 1880, her husband, I think it was John Apperson, he had more slaves than any of the other Appersons.
Yes.
You know, yeah, and it's kind of hard to figure out who these slaves were, right? Because the census only indicates it doesn't tell you the names of the slaves. It just they're individual entries. They just tell you the age of the slaves, the gender, and the color, they call it. You know, the color could be black or mulatto in most cases. The choice is black, mulatto, and Tazewell, at least according to the census, had no mulatto slaves. They were all black. And as you all know, the You know, according to the other census, Sarah was a mulatto, and so was her mother. Aggie was mulatto. So something was going on there. Now the Appersons did have the mulatto slaves. So what I'm trying to do now, you know, and it's a little hard because the ages of the slaves indicated, but I don't trust those numbers. So they would have like they kind of round off. So they might have somebody like I think 1880. They say that Sarah was maybe 40 or something, and Aggie was 70. I said, well, that sounds quite rounded off, you know. But and they said they couldn't read or write either. And so I suspect they don't really know their real age or what year they were born. So there's some rounding going off. There are the estimates of certain ages until their children begin going to school. And then they're more specific. You can see, I mean, the specificity is like when somebody says they're 23 or something, you know. But when you start, you know, you see 40 and 70 or 6, you know, stuff like that. And you say, oh, is that really right? So what I was trying to do, though, is to kind of take the groups, assuming that they were all enslaved on the same plantation, and then the idea would be, you know, Aggie, Sarah, and Thomas, right? Because Thomas, having been born in 1857, he would be about 3, you know, 2 or 3 or something like that, depending on when the census was conducted. And then you would have, you know, he would be mulatto, right? And then you would have Sarah, who would be about 40-ish. She would be mulatto, female, and then Aggie. And so I'm trying to look for that combination within the slave data. And if I can, you know, so in those instances where I could find all 3 of those together, then those would be possible places where they were enslaved. You know, assuming they were in New Kent County, and I suspect they were because they show up in New Kent County in 1870.
Yeah.
In 1880, right?
They were in New Kent County.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And actually, John Apperson lived right next to Tazewell Tyler.
Oh, he did?
He lived right close to him.
Oh.
And he did have he had some slaves by the surname of Jefferson, about 4 of them.
Oh, he did? How do you know that?
Yeah, John Apperson did.
Yeah, how did you know that he had about the Jefferson? Uh-oh, you're going out at the most inappropriate time here. Are you back? Yeah, we got to get. Yeah, okay, it's getting interesting now.
I went out again.
Yeah, you back in now? Come on.
Yeah, I'm back now. I found the names of some of his slaves in paperwork on John C. Apperson family. There were some names listed in that, and that's how I found four of them by the name of Jefferson that belonged to him.
Did they have first names? You didn't.
I'll send you those names.
Okay.
And I'll send you. I think I shared it with Francis too. A little map that shows how close to John C. Apperson lived to Tazewell Tyler. They were very close, right next to each other. Back, right next to each other.
So how do you think excuse me.
No, I was just gonna say John C. Apperson had like 3 different parcels of land.
Uh-huh.
And each place he had slaves on each place of where he lived. He did.
Yeah, he had a lot of slaves. Yeah, he had a lot of slaves. Yeah.
Yes, a lot of slaves. He did. Yeah. Yes.
So I'm interested in how do you think they got the last name Jefferson?
That's a good question. I have not been able to determine at this time where that came from. Not too sure.
And I was looking at the census records and some death certificates, and Sally Jefferson's death certificate lists her father as someone named Thomas Jefferson and Aggie Hill. But she died, when was it, like 1910?
Mm-hmm. Somewhere around that time.
But then on the same, I think it's the 1870, it might be the 1880, there's another Sarah Jefferson who's listed as 49. And she's listed as Black instead of M for mulatto. So there's someone else in St. Peter's district with the same
Now,
name.
At one time, there was different description of what Black people were. There was mulatto, Mustafino, another one. So, so in the records, they might have been listed as mulatto at one time, but today, when you go to look at the records, Black did not wasn't a connotation of what Black people were. So could it be the change in the terminology?
I don't know what you're asking, but I think on the census that I was looking at there, it was the same year. So these were two different people.
No, I mean,
yes, you're right. There are two. Yeah, they're two different ones.
Yeah, years ago, people might have been characterized by mulatto. Today, when you look at the records, it's no longer mulatto.
Oh, that, yeah. Now on that is, when you look at the 1860 census, for example. So in the 1860, the term mulatto was used. You could be Black or mulatto. 1870, we still had that, that classification for race. I think 1870, you could be Black, white, mulatto, or Chinese or something. So those were the four, categories for race. Eventually, it does change. They bump off mulatto at some point. But in 1860, but when that's one of the challenges when you're going through the records, and if you look in 1860, you have all of that demarcation, and that's very valuable information sometimes. For example, if you know your ancestors are mulatto, then you can look for mulattoes, right? Later, I know in 1920, for example, that classification not used. It's just Black or I can't, but it's only one. So because mulatto for many connoted something very negative, so,
Randy, I'm a little confused because I'm listening to what Delma is trying to say, and I'm a little, I don't know where we are, because she's right when she said back then when they were slaves, did they identify them as Black or did they identify them as slaves? Then when you come later, if we had any light complected Black, we were mulatto. Then when Blacks went to school, we were colored. So I'm a little confused how these terms are being used, because I know in Florida, they use the term mulatto. But here, going up north, I didn't hear that term very much. And Blacks didn't come out until later, I would say around the civil rights movement. We were now Black because, what was it, James Brown's song, I'm Black and I'm Proud? So there is a different terminology when we say slaves, because I don't know. What are we? They said if you have an ounce of Black blood, you Black. Well, I've always been light. And when I went to school, I went into a mixed school. And my teacher said, you are Black, you got Black blood. I came home to my mother and said, this is the third grade. Mom, where is the Black blood in me? Because my blood is red. So where is the Black blood? My mom said, where did you get that from? I said, the teacher told me I had Black blood. So I want you to cut the Black blood out. See, and I'm thinking that we're playing with words here. Frances has more information, I would say, from her grandmother's letters as how they identify slaves. Were they colored? Were they Black? What were they?
You're raising a very tough question because it depends on the they that you're talking about, right?
Yes.
So when you look at the, like the letters from Julia Tyler, there may be one kind of denotation of, who these folks are, because I think they use like one term. It was like I think Negro sometimes or something like that, right? And you look at the letters.
Well, we had the N word before we had Negroes.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of how different folks refer to them, right? But when
yes.
And looking at the census, now the census is, that's another way of looking at it. The census is national, and that's a federal responsibility. And so you have the experts who sit down and says, okay, how shall we classify people by race? And for various reasons, they elected at least in 1860, they elected to break out, the blacks, and then the mulattoes and the whites. And I'm not sure if they did Chinese or not in 1860. I think 1870. I'm with my head, but it's it's right at the top of the form. So if you were like a census enumerator and you're going around classifying people, that's an interesting question to me, even about, well, who is mulatto, right? So the census taker is probably a visual thing. You kind of go around to this. So you're at the home of Sarah Jefferson, and now Sarah has these children, right? And so the census taker is probably looking at them. It's probably saying, okay, this one's mulatto, this one, because you have mixes and sometimes, right, in the same household.
That's right.
Yeah, you have some who are mulatto and some who are Black, right? And so that's it's a judgment made. But on the first part of it, in terms of the structure, that was made at somewhere probably in Washington D.C., I guess, or near Washington D.C., wherever the census had its headquarters. And so they decided nationwide, how the census would be taken and how race would be treated. The other stuff has to do, it probably varied culturally, right? By state, by region within state, and stuff like that. So it becomes, becomes probably very, very confusing to anybody. So you might, in California, they might have said one thing and something entirely different in Virginia about how you classify folks, right?
Right.
So that's probably going to vary significantly.
Well, when I was growing up in my community, my people were considered colored, but my friends across the street who were darker than I was were called Negroes. So that's how they did it. There was a reference. I think my brother could tell you that. But my grandfather on my mother's side, he was at one time said to be mulatto. The rest of his brothers and sisters went white. So he was the only one that would say that he was mulatto. And if you look at his records now, mulatto does not exist. It's all Black.
May I say a few words?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm looking at a census report dated 1880, United States Federal Census, Ancestry.com. And let me tell you what I'm reading. Norwood Tyler, he was born birthplace St. Peter's, New Kent, Virginia. And he was, his race was mulatto, and he was a male. He was in the household that was Thomas Tyler. I'm gonna be slow with this now. Thomas Tyler. And Thomas Tyler was 22 years old. And Thomas Tyler, wife name was Elizabeth Tyler. And she was 17 years old. And then there was Emma Tyler. She was 20 and she was his sister. And then there was John Tyler, who was 15, brother to Thomas Tyler. And then there was Norbert Tyler, which I think was our grandfather. He was their son. He was the son of Thomas Tyler. And then there's Sarah Jefferson. She was 40 years old, and she was the mother. And then there's Aggie Hill, 70 years old, and she was the grandmother. So, am I reading this report that you sent me, Randy? Is that accurate?
Yeah. You probably see right below that, right? You see the Appersons. Go ahead. Do you see the Appersons right below that family?
So my question is.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. My question is that Norbert Tyler, which is my grandfather, and the rest of my cousins on the Zoom, grandfather, his father was Thomas Tyler, right?
Right.
And Thomas Tyler was John Tyler's brother, right?
Right, right. And Emma Tyler's brother as well.
And Emma Tyler's brother. So I hope that you can answer, clear up some of the questions that are being asked.
Thanks a million, man. But you see right below that, right, the Appersons. You see that in the same sheet? Right below the Tylers, you have the Appersons, right?
What now?
The Appersons. You see this, I think it's Susan Apperson or something?
No, I don't have that on this sheet.
Oh, I didn't send that to you. Huh? Okay.
No. It stopped at Aggie Hill.
And nothing after that. Right?
So Norbert Tyler is Thomas Tyler's son, right?
Right. He was just a little boy, right? Just at that time. Yeah.
They said 412. What does that mean?
Yeah, he was he had been living for 4 months.
Okay. And then Thomas Tyler was the brother of John Tyler, right?
Right.
So that's how we're related. That's how we're connected with the president, right?
Yeah, through but you don't have Tazewell. You don't have Tazewell there.
No, I don't have Tazewell.
That is correct.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the whole thing, is that where's the father, right? So we've got the mother, we've got the grandmother, and we've got the 3 children, and we have the first grandchild of Sarah Jefferson. Yeah. We have nothing listing there about the father. And so that was a part of the whole, big research effort. You're just trying to figure out, well, who's the father, right? Was it John? Was it President John Tyler? Was it one of President John Tyler's brothers? Was it one of Julia Tyler's kids, one of the gardeners, right? And so all that. So there are all kinds of, that we have an oral history out there about what that connection was. And I think we've nailed that down now to Tazewell.
Right. I'm glad you're calling it Tazewell. When I first met you, you called me Tazewell.
Well, I'm learning. I'm getting older now, but I'm still able to learn.
I'm just playing with you.
I think what we have learned from today is Norwood is a great name. We also learned that if you're not dark skinned, you're light skinned, okay?
He better find a trick for me before he gets off this Zoom, because I'm gonna get him. Do something, make me disappear.
Oh, that's cute.
He knows I'm gonna get him.
But it's going back to that mulatto thing, because I was thinking as we were talking about that, it's like, why would they do something? Why would they have that, that kind of, pull that out, if you will? And there probably one can only speculate, I suppose, about it. But the first thing that came to my head was South Africa, during apartheid, when they had the blacks and the coloreds. And they called it the Africans, I guess but they had the coloreds, and so I think that one of the reasons they may have done that is to create a buffer, because the coloreds were those who were mixed race, along with some of the Asians and others who were not white, right? And they're neither purely white nor purely black, and so you fall in the thing, and so they served as an effective buffer, because at least in South Africa, the whites were in the minority, right? And so it's good to have a buffer. That's a good word, buffer. You need a buffer. And so they may have needed a buffer in New Kent, because I think there were probably more black people in New Kent than white people, at a certain time, right? Because you had the big plantations, and so there were a few whites. You didn't need that many whites to run. You need a lot of slaves, though, to run the plantations. And so because of this, we're talking about Francis now, this term, right? So I'm going to use the liaisons between among the whites and slave owners and the plantation owners and some of the African women. You know, those children would come out different. You know, it's like, how do you look at, if you're a person of wealth and you have this relationship, and now you know that these children are really your children, but you can't admit that they're your children. It's not lawful to do that. It's not even culturally appropriate, you know, but yet you know that they are your children, right? And so you kind of start making special provisions for them. So it's you know, so probably, you know, when I looked at the 1860 and the, you know, the free persons, and you look at the those who are mulatto and those who are black, it's about equal numbers. I looked at the whole thing now, and it's roughly about the same numbers, but there are far fewer mulattoes in New Kent than blacks, right? So when you look at those who are slaves, they're primarily black. But when you look at the free persons, it's about equally distributed in terms of the numbers of those who are free. And I suspect it has something to do with that kind of logic, that relationships are, you know, once you have, you know, it starts off as being a weird kind of thing, but then some point you acknowledge it, you know, that these are my children, and you look at the wills, right? We had some of these wills that we started looking at, and you could see the masters making provisions for certain slaves. You know, it says, I want to free I want to free this woman, and I want you to free these children, and I want you to give them some of my land, and you know, all that kind of stuff. And even in what President Tyler's father's will, there was this woman, and I still can't figure it out. I mean, I said, this is interesting language. Boy, you're talking about, you know, provocative. There was one slave, and he says, and the slave, he mentioned her by name, right? Because the only slave mentioned the name in the core part of his will. I can't think of her name now, but he says, what's his name?
Becca and Hannah. Mm-hmm.
Becca. So he says, if Sewell sells something, I guess then buy her back, right? Buy her back and give it to Sewell's wife, who was his daughter, right? That's his. You know, I said, well, why would he make that kind of provision? See, there's something about the relationships, I think, that evolved over time, and that's maybe one reason why you want to have that, you know, that denotation of mulatto versus black. But then later, as we move past the Civil War and Africans are free, and there's no more slavery, then you know, gradually there's no more benefit to that demarcation or that separation. And so they're all in one group now. So now we're, you know, if you have one drop, and then you're in that group, and then if you don't, you know, then you're white. But there are probably reasons behind these things. They're probably much more complicated than I'm making them out to be. But I'm sure if one could dive deep enough, they could find the reasons why those in power elected to do it that way.
Hey, Brandon, you think this is confusing? On my mother's side, it's more confusing. I just had a second cousin to call me from Florida to tell me that my great-grandfather served in the Confederate Army as one of the soldiers, that he's buried in Richmond and Hollywood Cemetery.
Oh.
Yeah. So, like I explained to you, it's more confusing on my mother's side than what we are discussing here today. In fact, I'm working with two cousins on my mother's side that constantly calling me, giving me an update on my family history from my mother's side. Like I explained to you, all of my mother people passed as white, except about two. No. About two. So it's very interesting, and I'm totally confused. Okay.
Yeah, we can't even talk about that part, because that's.
If they ask me what's my race, I tell them I'm a Cocker Spaniel. Okay.
Cocker Spaniel. All right.
So when you used to get on the train, what did you used to tell people? when they asked you what you were?
Cocker Spaniel.
No, it was something else.
I can't remember. I went to the, and I'm gonna have to sign off, but I went to the dentist yesterday, and are y'all listening? And the lady looked at me and she said, "Oh, you have this beautiful tan." And of course, she was quite lady. And I said, "Thank you." And she said, "Oh, and I noticed that you have an accent." I said, "Oh, yes." And she said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Churchill." And she said, so I left her.
You used to tell people, "Oh, I'm just a jigaboo."
No, I don't remember that now.
You did. You did.
You did. Well, I tell you what, I have a 7:30 meeting myself, but before I go, Norris and Randy, I want to do this especially for you two. This is not a magic trick. It's just that Norwood has been known through the years to be a very smart guy, and I just want to keep up the tradition. So, all right, now watch very closely. Now, first of all, I'm going to need everyone. I'm going to need everyone to pull out your phones. Pull out your phones.
What phones? What kind of phone?
Yeah, your telephones. And when you pull out your telephones, what I need you to do is to put it on the timer. All right, put it on the timer.
The timer?
Yep. In a second, I'm going to ask you to start your timer. In a second, not just yet.
I can't do it. I don't have it. You got to send
I don't have a phone with me.
Okay, that's okay. Just those who have one will be fine.
All right.
All right, you ready? Okay. Now, Norris, I'm going to ask you to give me a number between 23 and 99.
All right. I'm going to say 26.
26. All right. 26. All right. Now, when I say start, I want you to start your timers. Okay. When I say start. Ready? I'm going to fill in all of these blanks, and I want you to tell me how long it took me to fill in the blanks. I know that's not making any sense right now, but stick with me, people. Stick with me, and I will show you at the end why this all makes sense. Are you ready? Start your timers.
I don't have a timer.
Stop. What's the time?
Oh.
What's the time?
Mine says 1926.
1926. 19 seconds. Let's go ahead and say 20 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, I filled this out in 20 seconds. Now, I know all of you are going, what is the big deal about filling out squares in 20 seconds? I'm now going to prove it to you right now. Norris gave me the number of 26. Is that correct, Norris?
Yes.
We did not prearrange this in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Is that correct?
Right.
I'm now going to prove to everyone how smart Norwoods are. Check this out. 6 plus 1 plus 12 plus 7 equals what? 26, ladies and gentlemen.
6.
11, and pull out your phones. You can pull out your calculators and check me anytime you wish. 11 plus 8 plus 5 plus 2 equals 26. 5 plus 10 plus 3 plus 8 is 26. 4 plus 7 plus 6 plus 9 is 26. Should I take a bow?
All right.
Not yet, folks. Not yet. There's more.
No, you gotta go down.
Pick it up. 6 plus 11 plus 5 plus 4 is 26. 1 plus 8 plus 10 plus 7 is 26. 12 plus 5 plus 3 plus 6 is 26. 7 plus 2 plus 8 plus 9 is 26. Shall I take a bow? Not yet, folks. 6 plus 8 plus 3 plus 9 is 26. 7 plus 5 plus 10 plus 4 is 26. Should I take a bow?
Absolutely. Not yet.
6 plus 7 plus 9 plus 4 is 26. Check plus 12 plus 8 plus 5 is 26. 8 plus 5 plus 3 plus 10 is 26. 10 plus 3 plus 6 plus 7 is 26. Should I take a bow? Not yet, folks. Check it out. You ready? 5 and 7, 12 and 2, 26. 6 plus 6, 6. Wait a minute, what is that? 6 plus 8 and 11 plus 1 is 26. I can go on further, but right now I'm going to drop the mic and turn it back to Randy. Thank you very much.
Oh, all right.
I hope your checkbook is as great as yours.
That's my cousin. That's my cousin. He's
26.
Randy?
Yeah.
He's very modest. He should tell you where he's been. He's been to Las Vegas. He's been to Kings. Tell him, give some history background, please. You're very modest.
Thank you, Norris. I'm what is called a corporate magician. So I travel around the country doing magic for different corporations, trade shows, and most of my playing ground is Las Vegas and Orlando. However, in the past year, because of the pandemic, I have been doing Zoom events. So that's what I do now, do Zoom events, right? Basically for corporations. I did have a show at King's Dominion for several years. And then I went to Las Vegas to perform. From there, I got recruited to perform on cruise ships in Florida. And that's how I got stuck down here in Florida. So,
well, wonderful. Wonderful.
Very good.
Yeah, well, thank you for pulling that rabbit out of the hat for us.
No problem. You have a 7:30, so I'm going to say bye to everybody. Take care.
All right. All right.
Bye.
Hey,
Take care.
All right. Take care now.
Bye.
Love you.
Hey, Brandy. Where's Johnny Thornton? He should tell you his background. He played with some big.
I think he's here, right? He was here earlier.
Still here.
Yeah.
Where is he?
There's he. I got the. Is he?
You're on.
Oh, here he is. Yeah, there he is.
Yeah, I'm here.
It's called iMac, huh? Yeah.
Tell him.
What do you want to tell him, brother?
Some of the musicians you played with.
Okay, all right. Well, when I was in New York, I had the opportunity to play with Charlie Parker and Bud Powell. This is jazz. So some of you may know this, some of you may not know this.
Yeah, that's the greatest.
Also in Richmond, we played on the same bill with Lionel Hampton and who's the other one? I forgot his name. I'm like brother now. I'm 87, he's 83. So I forget now. But anyway,
Charlie.
Oh boy, I play with a lot of
Charlie Parker.
Yeah, he mentioned him. Yeah, he mentioned Charlie Parker and Bud Powell.
And Bud Powell. This is at 3rd Street and Broadway.
Yeah.
And,
Charlie Parker is the greatest saxophone probably in the history of jazz, right?
That's correct. Correct. Bud Powell was on what? He was on piano.
Piano, yeah, greatest piano, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, with the combination of the two, I can take a bow to you because those guys were just fantastic. They were at the top of the ladder in jazz.
Oh yeah. Oh, wonderful.
Hey.
See, yeah, when I come to Virginia, we got to play together.
I'm looking forward to it.
Play a little Yardbird Suite.
Huh?
So we can play Yardbird Suite.
You got that right.
Yeah, that's one of Charlie Parker's tunes, Yardbird Suite.
Okay, we play that then.
All right.
I'll back you up.
All right, wonderful.
Yeah.
Cindy Palmer.
All right. Any other questions? I suspect that there will be more questions after we get off this line. After we end this meeting, because this is a very, LaVonne gave a very informative presentation, and it's just chock full of stuff, and there's all kinds of questions start popping in my head, and then that. I know, my goodness, when we talked about that Apperson thing, because it brought that up in my head, and she started coming through, and I said, I think we may have a connection here, when she said that Apperson stayed next door to Tazewell, because I was saying to Francis, I was saying to Francis one time, because Francis and I were talking about it, I said, wouldn't, I said, you know, would she be in the household of Tazewell, you know, those slaves? And I said, they're all black. And so Francis said, oh, you know, well, the census folks got those things wrong sometimes. And then I started speculating. I said, you know, if I were Tazewell, I mean, this is hard for me to do. You know, this is 2021, and I'm not a, you know, whatever. But if I were Tazewell, you know, back in 1860, and Tazewell was married, right? He had Nanny Bridges was his wife, and he had a young daughter, I think Martha or something like that. If I were Tazewell, I would not have Sarah Jefferson in my, you know, in my quarters. You know, and I was saying to her, I said, well, so where was she? Where would she be? Would she be someplace in another county? But then now that, you know, when you mentioned Jefferson, I say, oh, maybe she could have been next door. That would be a good place to hide her. I'm just being practical. So that's the question in my head. Yeah, you know, could they have been next door with the Appersons? Because in 1880, that's what I'm seeing here. I said, boy, they were like the Appersons, Susan Apperson, and because they no longer had slaves, I guess. But she was sandwiched between, you know, the Tylers and the Allens, and they were like the only white folks in that tract, you know, at least on that page. So yeah, LaVonne, I'm looking forward to that and any other information that you can share with us. That would shed light on.
I will send you that information through the email, and
All
I'll
right
do that tonight.
So anything else, folks, from the rest of you for the good of the order? Anything that you would like to say before we sign off?
I'd just like to know if LaVonne, if her presentation is available online or somewhere else that we can view it again.
I can send it to you. I can actually, if LaVonne doesn't mind,
sure.
I can just forward it to you after the meeting.
I'd love that. Thank you.
Absolutely, I'll forward it to everybody.
I would like to say this was a beautiful gathering, and I hope God, our entire family, and send that little girl up here so she can teach me how to use a computer.
We love that, Ava.
She is wonderful. She's so beautiful.
Yeah, yes. I learned a couple of things about Zoom today, you know, that I didn't know.
So LaVonne,
yes,
you're gonna let us know what you find about Stanley Tyler.
Yes, I will. I'm going to give him.
I'm very interested in that.
Yeah.
Well, you can, if you like, Delma, I can send you his phone number because I did talk with him. Yeah, I talked with him a couple of weeks ago.
Oh yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, I'll send you his phone number.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all. It's a very
thank you.
enlightening meeting, and you know, look forward to seeing you all next time. Next time we're going to, you know, I think we're going to focus on, you know, this trip to Virginia thing, and sort of we'll probably hang out at Sherwood Forest a little bit. Francis, will you be available next month, third Sunday?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great.
I thought
I'm sorry.
I thought you were coming down until next year.
No, the Zoom meeting next month.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant you were going to visit.
I am, yeah. So that's another story about
Okay. All right.
visiting next year, next spring.
Okay.
All right. So sounds good. You all have a great Sunday, and I'll work on this video. I'll take a look at it, and if I have to do some editing or something like that, then I'll do that. I'll send it out to the family members and ask you if you want to take a look, give you an opportunity to do that, because if there's something there you don't like, that's something happens sometimes. Sometimes I look at a video, I say, I don't know if I want to have that in there, you know. So I tend to send stuff out and give folks an opportunity to say, hey, it's okay, you can share this. And so I'll do that, and then we'll make it available, at least to the family, because I'll put it on YouTube, but as an unlisted video. It's not like something I just make public yet. Maybe eventually some will be made public, but right now it's unlisted. So if you'll get it from us, but it's just not something that the public has access to. All righty. Well,
good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
All right. Thank you very much.
See you next time.
Thanks,
Good to
Randy.
see you,
Good night.
Nada.
All right, bye bye.
See you, Nada.
Okay, darling.